Regular meeting, January 28, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. We will have invocation by Mr. Norfolk Jones and the pledge of allegiance by Mr. Steve Thompson.
If you would, please bow your head. Heavenly Father, let us start by thanking you for this beautiful, wonderful day that you've given us today, and allowing this group to come together and work together and guide us and look after us as we try to do the right thing for the citizens of Horry County. Lord, thank you for all your many gifts, and if you would, please look after those living in harm's way, that we have the freedom to live in this wonderful world that we do. In His name, amen.
Amen.
Please stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need to get approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Properly moved in second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the agenda has been approved. We need to get the approval of some minutes. We need the approval of the December 12th, 2019 regular meeting.
So moved. Second.
And properly moved in second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the minutes have been approved. We also need to get approval of the pre-budget workshop that was held on December 17th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And those minutes have been approved. I do believe that we have Ms. Renee Hobart has asked for public input. So at this time, I will invite you to the podium.
Thank you.
And welcome to the Solid Waste Authority.
Thank you very much. My name is Renee Hobart. I recently moved back to the area to help out with my family members. I purchased a house over in Grove Brook Estates. The address is 3472 Trailside Drive, Grove Brook Estates in Little River, right off Highway 90 that backs up to your solid waste or recycling convenience center number 1. Due to the growth and development of the new homes in the area, I feel like the county has outgrown this facility. Rumor has it that the county plans to move this facility to a larger piece of property. So I'm here to find out, first off, is it true? And second off, if not, then we need to see if we can make some changes to what happens within the area there. We have 7 homes that back up next to your fence with a 5-foot easement. I visited 9 of your other recycling centers, and not one of them border this close to a residential development. There's a 5-foot easement between your fence and ours. Your trucks come in and back in, and like I said, it's very, very loud and very noisy. Your other facilities border fire stations, school ball fields, commercial businesses, woods, and wetlands. Most of the time in the summer, we don't have too much of an issue with the smell of the garbage, but the noise of the trucks and the residents dropping off their trash make it unbearable to do anything outside. The trucks arrive in the mornings with empty dumpsters, banging over the speed bumps, and in the summer they arrive at 6:30 in the morning. I understand that there is a noise ordinance at 7 a.m., and then they start their reverse alarms, beep, 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 as they back up, offload the dumpsters, and as they're lifting and offloading, the cables and the rollers are all screeching like they need lubrication. Today we had 4 trucks, at 12:30 today we had 4 trucks trying to move dumpsters around as well as residents going in and out of the facility. The residents get frustrated and they start beeping on their horns. Nobody stops that. So during the day, we also hear the hydraulic hoppers crushing and crunching the bulk trash, exploding glass. There's just a tremendous amount of noise coming out of that. Therefore, I'm asking you guys if the county can erect the concrete noise barrier wall similar to the ones at the east end of Robert Edge Parkway. The cabs of the trucks are higher than 8 feet. Your guys sit up there and wave to us, so to speak, as they look down on us. We have the green silt screen back up. I thanked everybody for that one last summer when we had it reattached. And the chain link fence is 8 feet. So if we could look at doing something with 10 feet possibly, and along that particular side, that way we wouldn't have to look at them and they wouldn't have to look at us. The wall, I believe, should be a minimum of 10 feet high and thick enough to mitigate the noise that comes from all of this. So unless you all are gonna tell me that we're gonna close this facility down and move to another location that's bigger, I hope that you'll consider putting up something to help our 7 residents in our whole neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you for the, I believe you may have called sometimes and
Yes,
they have done some of the things that you required as far as the noise, or with the trucks showing up early, we're trying to get them to show up at 7.
right,
The vacuum sound or is a safety
yes,
measure that has been put on these trucks. With so many people being backed over at these recycling places and landfills and those kind of places,
right,
I don't know if we would not create some other problem if we tried to do that.
right. Well, that's why I was saying that.
Yeah.
I don't ask that you disconnect it
Right.
necessarily,
But-
but it's just that
Yeah, I know
we're
what you
so
mean.
close.
My
We're
daughter
so
stayed
close.
on campus and every morning at 6 o'clock, the garbage truck would come and it would have that beep, 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 beep backing up sound.
Right.
So another thing I'd say, that's one of the norms that we get with the growing of the county.
Right,
I don't see it getting,
Right.
but
I
I
don't
don't
see
have,
it
I don't
getting
have an
less.
answer of,
Right.
as to whether or not they plan to sell. Maybe Danny can answer that, I don't know.
To let the board know, we have been developing information for Steve and his group on, numbers for the proposed impact fee situation. And the smaller ones, like Highway 90, there's just really not much room to expand there.
exactly.
So that would be one that we would recommend in the future, that we move to a larger
Right,
site.
right. Especially with the 75 home sites by the middle school and
Yeah.
elementary school, and then
Well, the
83.
dumpsters, before we put the recycling centers in, the open dumpsters was across the side of the school,
right.
pretty much where the soccer field is now. And then we bought that piece of property and put the recycling center there.
Right.
And it's kind of built up, kind of around it.
Exactly.
And I don't know, what council's gonna do on the impact fees. I know they've had a study done. We put figures together on what could be done through those funding, but that's gonna be a county council call.
Great, great.
and
I will, like I said, just wanted to touch base and see where do we start. You know, I noticed that I had also said to, Jamie Suggs, I believe, this summer, about what you guys need is like that concrete wall, like when you come off of the turnpikes and the expressways at the edge of Robert Edge Parkway, something to mitigate some of the noise, because the trees don't cut it, you know, and it's just something to help our property values too. But I mean, even if you told everybody around us they had to, you know, had to pay for garbage pickup someplace else, I don't think it would help, you know, bring the number of trucks down. I understand you know, the dumpsters have to be moved and emptied. So, but it's just some of the noise.
We're hoping that, the funding will be in place to where we can increase the
Right.
sizes of some of these centers.
Right,
Like you've seen the one at, International Drive.
Right.
Next to the ball fields. And
right,
we're looking at 3 or 4 acre sites instead of,
right.
you know, the small
So
sites.
this one, I'm not even sure, I wasn't sure when this one was opened, except,
It's probably 35 years
Right.
ago.
right, I was gonna say a good while, because my house was built in 2004. The property was deeded in 1999 to the subdivision to be developed. So even then, I know the houses were being built, but not so close, so to speak, and all the numbers, you know, of all the growth here is just phenomenal since I've been back. So,
It is.
Yeah, and it's only getting
it's only gonna get worse, right?
So it's good that you got on the record, we'll have you on the record
Thank you.
with saying.
Right,
But we are, as Danny said, we're looking at, and the things that we will try to do is when we're trying to make sure that the trucks don't get there before
Right.
7, those are the kind of things that we can
That-
have some
right.
impact on. But as far
Right.
as building walls and all of that stuff, that's a county
Right.
call.
Right.
And,
No-
and you
no
may-
worries, like I said, I have a petition started within our,
Right.
neighborhood that won't just be the 7 homes that border, but hopefully we can, you know, get everybody on board to say, hey, you know, let's do something here to cut down, because they hear it on the other side,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I'm sure that that community has outgrown that area.
by far, by far.
Yeah.
So,
And the accidents there.
right. Last summer, we had a fatality there and the accident, so of course, if you are looking into getting, moving or getting a larger place, turn lanes and traffic lights help, but
Yeah, they do.
But at this point in time, there's not a lot of room to expand.
And I
even
think
for a
you
turn
can
lane.
see some of the subdivisions
Right.
along there don't have turn lanes.
Right,
But then the
Like
county has
ours.
started those guidelines where they've got to put those in.
right,
And they got to be so far off the property lines on Highway 90
Right.
for future
right.
4-laning or whatever we'll do.
Well, I think, like you said, I think we've just totally outgrown this one, so.
But we'll
But-
keep you posted
Thank
and
you.
I'll, if we can't get the truck drivers to quit coming before 7, I'll
No,
I'll get
agree.
you a phone number that you
Okay.
can call the owner in Florida.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, but yes, thank you very much for doing that. It's just, like you said, when there's 6 or 7 trucks coming in and out all during the day, you know, it's
Yeah.
just, it's busy.
It's
Right.
busy.
It is busy. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, department reports, recycling and corporate affairs. You ladies can, if you'd like to stay, that's fine. If you
I
want to
think
leave,
we
that's
can
fine.
head on.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing with us.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
It's good to see you without the cane.
Oh, it's good to be seen without pain. It's good to be seen. My report begins on page 17. However, I do want to start this by thanking everyone, staff, board, everyone who sent thoughts, prayers, cards, phone calls, my way during my brief time at home recuperating. It's much appreciated, and extra special thanks to my Solid Waste family here, who all pitched in and did whatever, whenever, however they could to make sure everything ran as if. And I always tell people, don't get your mind into a phase where you think if you're not there, things won't work. I always say if it's not there, it needs to work better. That's, you should be trained that way. And so, special thanks to everybody who stepped up to help me. It's much appreciated.
Well, Esther, my only concern is that when I sent the letter cards to your home, I put on there the Cool Springs SLW Annex. I didn't know if they ever got there or not.
It got there.
They got there. I put
They
on
got
Cool
there.
Springs,
They
Cool
got there.
Springs SWA Annex.
It there.
Can't lose any mail in Cool Spring.
Sure, no, you can't. It's okay. The first update I want to give you is on the statement of economic interest. It is that time of year, once again, where you are required as board members to complete your statement of economic interest before March 30th. If you need any assistance getting that completed, please feel free to see Nanette, and she'll be here to help you. But just remember, March 30th is the deadline. And then it's a very hard deadline. On last week, the 21st and 22nd, we held our quarterly meetings with the unincorporated collection center staff. We had 63 of 66 staff members to attend the training, which is very good. And as usual, we went over various operational things. We always take that time to look back over the previous 3 months to see if there's anything that we saw that needed to be tweaked, anything that was off between one center and another. We also go over standard things like use of personal protective equipment. Make sure everybody's still doing what they're supposed to be doing in the centers. But I did put in your packet a copy of our standard agenda. That's basically some of the things we go over each quarter. They change a little, but not very much. Our Clark Green Handed recipient for the month of December was Mr. Anthony Rosales. I don't know if any of you look at Lucky Dog Productions and see our Clark Green Handed segments during the course of the week. His read this particular month. And he was he was very excited about winning and spoke very eloquently about the importance of recycling. So it's always good to hear someone else speak to the importance of recycling, to know it does make a difference. Unless you have any other questions for me, I'm done.
I got one,
Yes,
I know the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce did a recycling for some of their owners, and I'm seeing on page 22,
Yes,
page
sir.
21 here about their summary of things. Did we participate in that? And
Yes, sir. That particular meeting was set up by one of the businesses in the city of Myrtle Beach.
oh, okay,
Who wanted to present recycling information for other businesses, so everybody knew what was available. And they asked us to come participate so they know what we offered as far as programs to businesses.
okay,
So yes, we did participate. They had about 14 in attendance,
okay.
and it was a pretty good meeting. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to call out the letter that was attached to our package at the very end, from the Director of Facilities, Jeremy Mundy. He brought a crew out here from Coastal Carolina
Yes, sir.
University. He was led by Kendra,
Mm-hmm.
and he just shouted out how just terrific she was.
Yes.
I saw him earlier today,
Mm-hmm.
and he started as a sustainability coordinator.
Yes.
Now he's in charge of facilities. And he wanted all of the people, custodial, everyone who reports to him now that he's over facilities to come out here for a tour. And most of them had never seen this facility before, didn't know anything about how the waste was handled once it left their hands. And she overwhelmed them. She also made it exciting to them. And please let Kendra know
Oh, yes, sir.
that we know she's a resource.
I sure will, yeah.
But that was terrific to read the letter, and he really was sincere
Mhm.
about wanting us to know just how terrific she led that group and just how energized they were to see this facility and see how it's handled.
I've always said if we could get everyone in Erie County to come to take a 30-minute tour and have a different attitude about the garbage and taking care of it and reducing it, that everybody loved after the tour. They just rave about it. So, and the bird watchers and Wayne takes care of them, and we just invite them all out.
But Kendra never seems to lose her enthusiasm, and that's just one.
Yeah, her and Victoria too, the two of them, you know, I sometimes call them the dynamic duo, and sometimes I have other names that we won't talk about right now in the meeting. But they are, their love for what they do is true. They absolutely enjoy their job. Even when they might have to go dumpster diving, they still do it with a smile. So as lot to be said for enjoying your work.
Thank you for
I'll pass
including
that
it in the
along.
package, so we see those accolades. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back.
I think I'm talking to DJ.
Finance and Administration.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
The financial reports begin on page 24. Just want to take a look at a few figures on this page. As you can see, our tipping fees, year-to-date are running slightly below where we were last year this time at a 2.34% decrease. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we did have a storm last year, and so therefore they were up a little bit. But as you can see, solid waste is currently running at 53.44% of budget, mixed construction at 51.73% of budget, and yard waste just slightly below at 47.83% of budget.
Jan, can I stop you there?
Yes, sir.
C and D is way off.
You did the mixed construction
Yes.
at
Yeah,
51.73%
and
of
when you
budget.
look, you didn't prepare the tonnage figures, because that's Mike's department. But you could really see that we're not meeting what we had forecast. Do we know what is impacting us and we're not receiving as much as we had expected?
Well, we're, as a matter of fact, on the tonnages, we're actually above where we were last year. And we are, like I said, we have a 4.83% increase in our C&D tonnage over last year. So we are hitting like I said, we're exceeding our budget on mixed construction. So were you thinking we were below our budget?
Well, I'm looking at the decrease on change, it was 16.97%. And when you look at the tonnage report.
Oh, you're looking
and
at, I'm
compare-
sorry, you're looking at the C&D recycling facility. I'm sorry.
You're looking at recycling.
The recycling facility, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. And that is, like I said, where we're seeing the change is like I said, the material going over there with definitely with, like I said, the prices of materials. That's gonna be your
The
actual
tonnage is
revenue.
the same, the price, this is the price differential.
It's the
that we
price
see.
difference, yes, sir.
That's what I was wondering, and that's why I was asking.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
I
Good.
think if page
question.
36 on the bar graph, it's a more clear picture on really what's happening with all these things.
Right, that's what I was saying, that there was I know she didn't prepare this report, but the
Right.
two don't exactly agree, and I wanted to know what the differential was. You just
Exactly. The
explained
tonnage
it.
is where it
It's-
normally runs exactly, but the prices,
The prices have dropped that
and
dramatically.
there's a lot of material that Mike hasn't been able to get rid of.
Yes.
You know, a lot of, so that's hurt drastically on the revenue side, exactly, yes,
Well,
sir.
It's really alarming to see the same weight coming in and then
The
income
revenue.
drop off.
That's exactly right, yes,
Thank
sir.
you, thank you, Jan.
Yeah, I started saying Mike will go over some of that.
Yes.
But overall, the tipping fees, we are at 52.72% of budget overall on our revenue for tipping fees. So we're well above budget, which is great. As you can see, the recyclable sales continue to remain below budget at 37.26% of budget. Of course, like I said, we do know that has to do with the prices that we're receiving. The C&D processing facility year-to-date has saved 29.82 days of landfill airspace. And the Murphy Collection Holland has saved 49.91 days of landfill airspace. And the store has saved 0.042 days of landfill airspace. Over on page 26, just want to take a look there. As you can see, overall revenue is at 52% of budget, and overall expenses are at 45.48% of budget. So, like I said, I continue each month to commend staff on holding and maintaining their expenses. They're continuing to do a great job of watching things. We're halfway through the year, and we're continuing to keep those expenses well below budget. Month to date, you can see revenues over expenses of $255,731.94, and year to date, $1,641,622.53. We'll be using a lot of these figures as we start to prepare our budgets for next year. So, like I said, I'm hoping staff can continue to do this when they're implementing their budget. Take a look at areas that we can possibly decrease, or anything we may need to increase as well. Just like I said, just the only other thing I was gonna look at was on page, we're looking at the tonnage figures on page 30. Like you can see, we are slightly below in solid waste over last year this same time. Yard waste, we are below with tonnage, and our mixed construction is up over where we were last year this time. Like I said, we are seeing the biggest increase, of course, in our mixed construction. And of course, I'm sure, just like they said, with all the new houses and things going up, that's where we're seeing all the increases. So anyway, I'll answer any questions you may have. All right, thank you.
On
Oh,
the
yes,
C&D processing facility and the material recycling facility, year-to-date revenue is 194 and then expenses of 347. Then the same thing on the material recycling.
yes, sir.
That puts us at
A very large deficit.
$884,405.
Yes, sir. And we're having to cover that deficit, which we talked about in that pre-budget workshop that we had. We're having to cover that deficit with the increase that we're seeing in the tipping fees. It's having to cover that, which is why we talked about implementing, a tipping fee increase so that that would help to cover more of that decrease that we're seeing over there. We're hoping, of course, like I said, with the new equipment at the MRF, we'll be able to reduce some of those expenses as well. But, due to the market prices being as low as they are, and this happens, every time we have a decrease, the tipping fees have to cover the expenses of the MRF. And so, yes, sir, that's how we're making up that deficit.
Well, my question is how much are we willing to pay to save airspace? That's a lot, that's $884,000 that we're looking to save at the maximum. See, 50 days divided by 50, and $17,600.
That was the reason for that workshop, to poll the board and make sure that we're on board, that we want to maintain the programs we have, and what we want to sacrifice is the tipping fees to offset it. At what point we can't afford to do that any longer, we hope we don't have to visit that point. But it was recognition that the dropping prices are really affecting us.
Yes, sir.
And I also thought that was one of the reasons, like you said, we had
To
to
request
look
to have a
at
workshop.
maybe doing something with the tipping fees, because we know the tipping fees are what's keeping us afloat.
Yes, sir.
Also looking at the possibilities, the downside of trying to get out of that business and how that's gonna be, although I know the numbers are big, but I think they may be even worse if we try to just dismantle the recycling project. And so what we're looking at now is trying to find ways to balance that, and that's what that was for. Hopefully the prices will come back up. I don't know if they will or not, but that's something that I'm sure everybody's experiencing.
It was an unreal market.
Yeah, and it's gonna, yeah.
It was an unreal market to
Sure
begin
was.
with. To expect to be able to pay the transportation cost overseas as far as China, and expect them to take the material
Well, yeah, and I
as
think-
cheaply as they did.
And
And
the quality of
deliver the
stuff.
quality that we did was really just overwhelming what we did to China. And
Well,
I
they
don't
just
blame
finally
China
woke
one
up
bit
and
for
said they
wanting
couldn't
to.
deal with it, yeah.
And the grief we caught taking the Charleston material,
Right,
and that was big benefit to us.
right.
Even in the market the way it was is today, we had a level that they had to pay.
Participated in
Right,
it.
right. So we lost that,
We
which
lost
was
that too.
great, yeah.
But even if we increase the tipping fee to offset that cost, I mean, we're still bleeding there.
Well,
How
you go-
long we plan on bleeding there, and what's our point of no return?
Well, as we've
Have we
said,
thought about that, Plan B?
we've said in the workshop that if we were a private concern, we probably already locked the gate and wait for the market to come up. They already have. But the private concerns don't try to protect their airspace. That's a no-go. If they have problems, they can just say, no. When it gets back up, we'll take the stuff in. We stop those big, long blue trucks from the beach, it'd be hard to get that program started back up, but, hoping the markets are showing, and I think Mike will show you where we're making a little bit more than the national average on a lot of the material. It's a double-edged sword.
To go back, you asked a question about airspace, and I think that's one of the most important things that we're trying to do. With the growth that's going on in this county, I heard 1,200 people a month coming in here. If we don't try to reserve airspace, that 2023 and 2040 or whatever we talked about as far as closing this landfill, it's gonna be a lot shorter than that. Because they gotta have somewhere to put it. And if we start taking all that stuff that's recyclable and sticking it in the landfill, it's gonna close it up pretty quick. Because people are moving in here by the groves. And they don't really, I mean, I can say about, looking at the landfill, that's not the first place people come as a sightseeing operation. They put it in the garbage and they don't really care where it goes. When the waste industry truck leaves their pickup, they could care less.
Their mind is
All
clear.
they wanna know that it's picked up and that it's moved and that it's gone. They could care less about what's going on out here. And that's why when people come here, they're really, we had one county councilman, what's his name, that just got on there, young man that just got on, that came out. Yeah, Bellamy.
Bellamy?
Arden Bellamy. He came out here and he was flabbergasted. He couldn't believe. Now, he's lived in this area all his life.
And Johnny Gardner came.
Yeah, and Johnny
He was
Gardner
the
came,
same
and
way.
they've lived here all their life, but when they came, they just couldn't believe what's going on out there and how clean it is, and what's going on out there. But this is not the first place people tend to come and wanna view, and so the more we can do to get them out there, the more word we can get. But if we start getting rid of airspace, it's gonna be rough in Horry County on the citizen, and I ain't willing to start paying. I got $100. Wait till 20 more years, I'll be gone, so it won't, it'll be okay. But it will be, they think it's bad now, but if we start having to dig in the pockets to shift this stuff out, it's gonna be astronomical. And I think we saw some of those numbers when we did the management plan. Yeah, workshop.
But I do agree, and I've looked at the figures too, and I don't particularly care for it. And the different plans or things that I've looked at, I still believe that we need to go to a mandatory kind of recycling in this county that would offset some of that. And I think the state needs to, as you'll see in some of the things Danny copied that I had sent him, they're starting to look at the problems. DHEC's gonna start looking at the problems microplastics and different things are causing in the health problems that are coming in these states and whatever, and the cost of that. And through some of that kind of knowledge, if we could get the states to make the manufacturers make that product in something that is still a market for, that would help us tremendously to cut down that fee. And if our county would mandate recycling, and it would be those things, it would cut down that fee. So there are things that can be done to cut that fee, but we're gonna have to work with our county council, and we're gonna have to work with our state to have them help us on that. And I mean, that's where I see the difference will come, because if you start taking it out, if somebody, we've got to pay $60 to $70 to $80, that's gonna cost more a year by far. That'll be doubling what we're doing today. So that'll be way more than what that $800,000 loss figure is, and I think all of that needs to be
And
discussed.
make producers responsible for the waste
Yeah,
they create.
and for them to have to pay like they do with the tires and bring that money back to us to pay for us to process that. But those, to me, are three large things that we could do to offset that.
And I agree with that, and that's I remember 3 years ago,
Yeah.
4 years ago, we had three companies, 3M was one of them. And that talked about, getting in partnership with the waste industries to make package that could be recycled. Industry is not really all into doing that.
Coca-Cola announced
Coca-Cola is doing.
enormous goals
Yeah.
about how they were going to change their business. Well, this week they announced, no,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
we're not going to avoid plastic.
The
We're
majority.
going to
is
embrace
gonna-
plastic.
They're not gonna do it.
If they're not made.
And forcing the state legislators and county, we've been talking about having mandated recycling for the last 3 or 4 years, and that's a county council call. those are great, and I love to see, and somewhere, somehow, the citizens are going to have to get involved to help pushing to make their representatives be accountable. And that's why I keep trying to get the representatives to come out here and look at what's going on so that they can see it with their own eyes. So that when they're up there supposedly representing their constituents, they can understand what we're saying to them and make the right decisions. I hope that happens.
In my lifetime.
But,
If we have to make the decisions for it, then we're gonna increase tipping fees.
but for the time being, we as the Solid Waste Authority has to try to do the best we can to manage efficiently what we're trying to do. But I don't know if that's gonna happen while I'm around.
I don't know
hope
either,
so.
but I remember when we discussed Charleston, and they thought we were gonna have 3.2 days loss of airspace over that whole time. County council absolutely hemorrhaged anger. We're not gonna lose 3 days. Well, now we're saving 50-some, and it's at a cost. But they don't want that airspace lost, or at least they certainly didn't want 3 days lost.
Well, we saved them a few.
Saved them a lot.
Thank you. We won't take up all your night.
Thank you, Jan.
We'll have, operations and planning.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
The man that it sold his salt.
It is always my fault.
You could stand in the road and stop them.
Is that what it is?
Don't get in front of me.
A little bit about the landfill, we've been doing good on the landfill, moving things, we got our inspection, on the landfill, this month on our air inspection, air quality inspection, and audit, and we passed that, so we've done a good job with that, we actually was in Columbia when they came to do the audit. Everybody was in Columbia, so we got somebody to get all the paperwork together for them, and, they were happy with what they got, and they come back in to see us one more time, and it all worked out fine, so we gave them what they want. So what they do is they check our emissions on our equipment and all the air quality coming from the landfill.
Okay.
So we passed.
Good.
That was good. And I don't, hadn't really said anything about it. You know, we get our monthly inspections, and since I've been here, we've had 0 problems. Once in a while, wind will come and a little bit of litter or something like that, and that's about it. Our landfill's got good inspections for the last several years. Way before I got here, and it has continued. So Wayne and them do an excellent job doing that.
At conventions, I've had different people from DHEC come and tell me, as a board member, they are thrilled with the inspections that y'all are getting.
Well, we feel pretty good when they bring people out here to train for other locations. So
Wow.
we're a training ground for them, so that's, we definitely feel better about that. A little bit about the C&D, wanted to clarify a few things that you were asking for, Mr. Ives, and that is that the cardboard, we've had a time trying to get rid of the cardboard. It's been very hard to get rid of cardboard that we are clean with at the MRF, and then you put it in the C&D, get dirt and stuff on it, it's even harder to get rid of it. But there was several months we couldn't sell anything. So I took it to the MRF, get that material out of the MRF, and mixed it in with what we had over there, and shipped it out that way. So some of the revenues that you would see that would have normally went to the C&D factory went into the MRF revenue. But it was the only way I could get rid of it. So if I have a problem getting rid of it, I'm looking for a way to get rid of it. So I put 3 or 4 bales on every load that went out. And I didn't get any complaints back, and we got rid of the cardboard, and everybody was happy.
Good.
So, you see, that's the kind of things we do over there. In the month of December and January, of course, January, we've been using part of the facility to process some of the materials over there. So it will slow down some of the tonnages that we're getting in over there and been able to process. December's always a slow month. We get to do about 900 tons in the month of December. Contractors just, they don't work the last 2 weeks of the month. During Christmas, they take off. Majority of them, not all of them.
That's why it was so alarming to see 6 months worth of data showing a decline in income.
Yeah, but I've been finding other ways to get rid of that material out of there, so that revenue wouldn't show up in the C and D because I'm mixing it in with.
We used to make a lot of money off that.
Huh?
We used to make a lot of good money off that.
Yeah. So, and we selling our mulch, it's selling good. I know for a fact we sold about $7,000 this month. So. But anyway, so we done, the CD the MRF is moving on. They've been running 2 shifts. As of tonight, they will only be running 1 shift. They've got all the equipment in. Now they're wiring it, putting plates and covers on it, and they'll be doing that, and come next week, they will start testing the equipment. So we'll be going through next week.
Assembling the material they requested to test it.
Yeah, so we'll start putting, this coming, Saturday, we'll start loading the building with material, and that'll give us a week to build up enough material to run a couple of days off of. So it'll take us about a week to save up enough material to run that facility for a couple of days, at full max.
Mike, there's been a question while we were running 24/7, and the only thing I know we were running 24 hours a day was a 3rd shift at the MRF, installing equipment.
Yeah, that's the only thing we've been doing there. Now, we did run 2nd shifts because we had over here, second shift over here, because there's a lot of things we wanted to do. Of course, if there was any material left over from the day, to be able to process it at night, because we've been still selling cardboard and newspaper and office paper going out of that facility. We processing that. So at night, they've been painting the facility, cleaning the facility, and getting it ready. You know, we had to hold on to the employees, had to give some kind of work to them, so we spread them among 2 shifts to do some pressure washing and cleaning and that kind of thing, a facility. If you remember several years ago, we had to go in for Oshie to go ahead and clean the whole facility. Well, we're doing that now while we down. So those are some of the things we're doing. And that's why we're working 2nd shift. As of this Friday, we will no longer be working 2nd shift at either location because there won't be any materials, and everybody will go to day shift and then do all the odds and then blowing the walls down and cleaning them up, getting the painting complete. My goal was to have the building, equipment, all one color, same color when we got done. You know, we show that thing a lot, people come see it, they want to see it, we want it to look right. Also, on the MRF, if any of y'all get Resource Recycling Magazine, it gives you the national averages for material every month of what's being sold nationally. Give you an idea, our average price is $45 more than the national average is what we get for our material. And I get calls all the time asking me, well, how do you get rid of your material? Well, really, other than the C&D cardboard, we haven't had any problem getting rid of material. We were able to get rid of it. So, we did have one buyer last month get kind of upset with us because we didn't sell it to them, but the prior month we sold it to them and they didn't show up to pick it up. And it was $3 difference per ton. This month I had to have it gone. I didn't got a place to store it.
He knows better now, doesn't he?
Yeah, she has changed her attitude. They give us a big long letter of how they wouldn't use the same trucking company anymore, and they guarantee it to be picked up on time.
A lot of those clients are aggregators, aren't they? They search the market for clients and then they're the in-between.
Well, we sell, yeah, they brokers.
Yeah,
We sell it to the broker.
Yeah,
The broker finds the company overseas. Most MRFs do their own trucking. So they will truck it out. You buy it as a broker, you tell me where it goes, and I'll get the trucking company to ship it there. We don't do that. We say, your material, you get the trucks here, you do it, and we're one of the few that do that. It's easier for us, we sell it and get it off our hands, and they have to find the trucking. Trucking is hard. It's hard to find trucking. I even had Sunoco to call me and ask me the other day, who's this people that's buying your material? Are they paying you? They've always paid us, and the trucks are here. So, you know, that's what we were after this month, to make sure that it's $3 cheaper, but I had to get it out. Any questions? Lamar?
And we're still on schedule?
Still on schedule for February 10th. We'll be running full blast that morning. We'll open up that morning and run wide open all day. There'll be people coming in to do certifications on the equipment, to inspect it to make sure it's right. They'll run certain belts and stuff. All the electrical will be completed by Friday.
Where are you finding the staff to cover this?
It's our standard full.
Staff
Yeah, we just kept them on. That was the reason for keeping them working. Was to be able to hold them, to keep them from getting rid of, losing them. Now we will do some adjustments as time goes on and looks at it, but we're going to hold on to our people, because some of them have been with us 20-some years.
Yeah.
That's template.
Amazing.
No.
It's amazing.
We're, trying to check the subject here, maybe I missed, I'm looking back through some old notes here. We had a discussion, and you were supposed to follow up with, Grand Stream Water and Sewer. On the
We have not been able to set up a meeting with them at this time. We're waiting about the pipe, to run the pipe.
Yes.
Yeah.
What direction we need to go there?
We're trying, all through the holidays and stuff, it's kind of hard to get a meeting, but we'll try to work on that.
Okay.
Okay, driver of the month, Stan Cox, that works with, Trevor Industries, the people on the landfill chose him as the driver of the month. So he helps us out when he can. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say that when we toured that facility, I was amazed at the cleanliness and how you had that set up, and what you had gotten done, and the people that have been working with you, what they've gotten done. And I want to thank you and them as well. You've done an excellent job.
Thank you. Been a good team effort among everybody, staff in this office and everywhere else, everybody working together. It's run fairly smooth, surprisingly smooth. Waiting for that thing to stump me, but surprisingly, it's run smooth so far. And you wouldn't, compared to what y'all saw the other night, if you went up there today, it looks totally different. There's that much more equipment than that.
Not much more.
Oh, wow.
All that equipment that was sitting outside is now inside the building.
Okay.
Okay. Good job.
All right, thank you, Mike.
You can leave in the afternoon, go back in the morning, and totally change it on it then.
What amazes me, stuff is built in Canada, and I was watching them taking the 4x4s that comes between the racks and everything for shipping, and they're bailing them back up. There's a shortage of wood in Canada, and a 4x4, probably 8 foot long, is $10. So they pack it back up, get it back to the factory to reuse.
Use again, yeah.
And I tell you what, it's amazing to see them stack that stuff up and shake it a little bit, and the holes line up and they just bolt it together. It's just the workmanship. And one of the subgroups out of Oregon told us that they put stuff together from different companies. He said, but this company here, it bolts up and lines up, and it's,
That's right up
the
on
more I see them work, the more I know we made the right.
We got it right, we made the right decision.
That's impressive on them wanting to reclaim the materials that they can.
Yeah.
We went to Boeing.
Boy, I was going all that wood.
Was talking about how they were zero waste.
Yeah.
And we're all scratching our heads saying,
What's
what's zero about this equation?
Yeah.
There's so much waste
Yeah.
here. And all they did was they found a source for it. And so it's 100% sourced. But that doesn't mean
They
it's
didn't
zero
reuse
waste.
it when they could.
And here's a firm that's
Really?
Taking it back to
serving,
their place.
they're serving an industry of recycling, and their mission is to also take
Yeah.
care of their own waste while they're at it. That's
Well, that's the same thing Boeing could have done. I mean, they could use those same things to reship.
they get the
things.
same cart
Same cart.
every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I tell you, and we've watched the people work all 3 shifts. And I was there Sunday afternoon, and a little guy that's been with Machine X 24 years, David, he said, I leave out in the morning, and it's been a pleasure working for y'all. And when he turned around and walked off, it's like my daughter was going to college. I'm like a family member, and, it's just, they were just good people.
One of the subcontractors told me today, and I told Danny this, when I was walking through and I was speaking to him, I said, well, so what's next? You know, communicate with him. He said, it's that inspector that's coming from county. I said, what do you mean inspector coming from county? He said, they gonna come in here, and he's gonna go through every bolt on this thing. He does it every time we put one of these things in. And he'll say, I don't like the way that bolt's turned, turn it around. 5 minutes later, well, I like it the other way, turn it back around. Said he's tough. Said he goes through it with a fine tooth comb.
That's good.
And that was the subcontractor telling me that. So. He said that's what he hated more than anything was the
Inspection.
inspector coming.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks. Mr. Knight?
Thank you. Staff hit on most of the big stuff, just bring you up to speed on the storage building. As you see on page 49, it's, kind of the date outlined. We've got the pad in place. The old house on the Conway side is gone, it's down, it's been, leveled, it's been seeded, so everything looks good there. I worked up a pay schedule for the Council on Aging, and in about 20 years, they'll have the building paid off. And we've started the first 5 years, it's $5,000 a year. The next group of 5 years, it'll be $6,000 a year. So, end of 20 years, and we're gonna encourage that, they pay it off quicker. We're hoping, more space, it'll be more profit in there. They cleared about $10,000 a year there, so it's taking not much of their money to pay for the building, but everything looks like it's going good. That's really what we have. I know we'll have some stuff come up around the table that we can discuss later.
Any questions for Danny? All right, committee report. I think we got one committee report, and that's Operations and Planning Committee meeting that was held on, January 8th. And Mr. Jones, I understand you're going to, take care of that portion.
I'm not sure I can fill Mr. Campbell's shoes, but I'll give it a valiant effort.
Well,
On January the 8th, the Operations and Planning Committee met with Chairman Campbell, Michael Hughes, myself, also President Pam Preach, and Bo Ives, and Carl Schwartzkopf. And I think that Mr. Bassett can do a much better job covering all the details in this than I can, so I'm going to ask him to come up and speak, and then I'll make a motion when he gets through.
Okay, so what we did is we asked the committee, as y'all well aware, we purchased a Tier 3 steel wheel compactor recertified. Back in, last year, y'all agreed to let us do it, and we purchased that unit for $650,000, and our budget was $1.2 million. So we got that unit in December. Since we have another compactor to be purchased in August, or needs to be purchased and in place by August of next year, and it typically takes about 6 months to do that. That's why we're bringing this to the board now. So after we looked at the 5 years of looking at the different pieces of equipment, the types of equipment, you know, we've had a lot of issues with Tier 4 units, which is Tier 4 emissions units. We think it's better at this time to stay with a Tier 3 emission system. And hopefully by the time we get done, within the next few years, they can get that emission system worked out. And so what we've done is we're asked the committee to allow us to put out a RFP within the next 30 days. It'll take about 6 to 8 months for any company to put one together. So it's got to be a recertified, that's an older unit that's been rebuilt. And put one out for a 123,000 pound unit. When we bought this time, it's 107,000, The current compactors we use is 123,000 pounds, so we want to stay with those things. We feel like the cost of that will be about $450,000, which will be a savings in our equipment depreciation of about $450,000. Then we talked about, we have a compactor that we've had on site, equipment number 345, that the engine went out of. We were waiting for it. It had 15,000 hours on it. And it ran, and still ran good the day the engine messed up in it. It wasn't using any oil, it had a valve to go out in it. So, the overall unit was in good shape. So we're asking the board, to allow us to use part of the money from this year's compactor that we purchased and arrived of $175,000 of that, savings that we had on that, over $600,000 worth of savings, to use it for those, to rebuild the old compactor as well. So we want to put out an RFP for a new recertified one. We want to have $175,000, use $175,000 of the money we saved this year to rebuild the one that the engine blew up. Now that engine will have a 10,000 hour warranty on it. So at least we know the engine's gonna be warranted for 10,000 more hours. And that usually takes us about 4 years to use that 10,000 hours.
Any questions from Mr. Bessie before I make a motion? Not, I would make a motion to the full board for acceptance of staff recommendation utilizing the savings of $175,000 for repair number 345 and to allow staff to release a request for proposal for a recertified Tier 3 compactor.
Having attended the committee meeting and just referring remarks that Mr. Bessie made, I enthusiastically second that motion.
Properly moved in second. Are there any questions at this time? No questions. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The motion has been approved.
And let me say too, this helps shore up that equipment account that we talked in the pre-budget workshop about some of the rate increases will go to shore up that. And we just want to show that we're doing a little bit on our own to shore that account up also.
And for 4 years, we should have certified equipment in place.
And this is gonna be certified. I mean, it's just, the old one that we put an engine in and do some work on, it's kind of a spare, it fits in. If one goes down for service, you put it on the hill, so, we think that's the way to go. Traffic.
We also had
Thank you, Mike.
some SWA recycling grants come up, but that comes under Mr. Schwarzkopf's house, so we'll turn that over to him.
You do it.
Yes, at the January 8th meeting, we listened to several requests from the city of Myrtle Beach, from Buck Creek Association, the city of Conway, for grants and requests, and having researched those in greater detail, I enthusiastically make the recommendation that we approve of that.
Properly moved in second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the motion has been carried. Did you do them all at once, or are you doing them individually?
We can do them all at once in the interest of conserving our time.
All right, very good. Okay, I don't think there was any old business that we had. So we'll move on to new business and the roundtable discussions. Danny, Pam, Danny, the only thing I'm gonna discuss, and we can discuss it after that, is, conferences.
I think Ms. Creech, has got some information, and I have put a packet of information together, that will give you an idea on what we did last year, with resolutions to our lobbyist group, and,
Okay.
and I talked to our lobbyist today, and, he seems to think that the state has got their plate full this coming up on what they're facing with education bill, abortion bill, Santee Cooper, and their budget. So, I think we will stay on top of this stuff, but, I'll turn that over to Mr. Chris.
What I had seen had come over on some of the coastal conservation and the Waste Warriors committees, and I was really thrilled to see that they had gotten a senator, a joint resolution introduced by Senator Sheehan last week will direct DHEC and DNR to jointly research the issue of microplastics and the impact on our public health and the environment. They'll then have recommendations and a strategy to address the issue. And it has the bill down there. And for quite some time, working with the Senate and looking at the different things I think they could do to help us working with plastics here. And we have discussed at times what the plastics are doing to the food sources and to human health, that I was really thrilled they had gotten the senator to introduce that and to be discussed and to do research on that, so that that would be one more reason. Not only just financially, because what it is costing us to process it, and what it's costing us to landfill it, but what the cost is to human life. And I think maybe that will get our discussion to go a little bit further on toward having them make some resolutions on the packaging that we deal with. And what I told Mr. Knight was that I would like for our lobbyists to be involved in this and to work with this senator and to know what's going on there, to advise us, and if there's anything we can do to go down there and help them. So that was just something I was really happy to see that was happening this year.
Good.
Very encouraging.
Yeah, it's-
In this packet, there's a group that the Association of Counties has put together on things that they're gonna be pushing, and I was on that committee and, helped get a lot of those things on the county council agenda. So there's some good ideas through there and, from different organizations. Just wanted you to see it, and we will stay in touch with our lobbyists, Wayne Dean and Patty. They were there today in the Ways and Means Committee, listening to the Santee Cooper debate, and, I asked them what they thought was gonna happen. They said it depends on which street corner you were on. That's what's gonna happen.
And you know, I agree with him. I think they do have their plate full. But historically, the lobbyists that are working to get these plastics to stay where they are,
Yeah.
will tack something on, move something over, so they still need to be very vigilant.
You know, this is the second year of the biennial, and they're getting sneakier towards the end of the
Yes.
session.
Yeah.
And you're seeing more stuff from the corporate world pushing, and more stuff at the Capitol pushing stuff down instead of us screaming and trying to push it up. So, and Senator Sheehan, we know him from some of our lawsuits, but he's a good one to have on your team. So we'll keep in touch with him.
Good, I'm glad, thanks Pam for bringing that up, but I do think more research is being done. And the more research being done, the more eyes open, the most, the legislators and the politicians will have to start listening at some time. The only problem is with studies like that, they're so long. We know it's happening, but it's gotta be, you know, all documented. And during that time, people are still having problems, and we're not sure. We pretty much know where they're coming from, but we have no proof to document it. And that's the only problem with those kind of things. But it's good to get it in the pipeline. And so, thanks. Anything else, ma'am?
And where all that is going to, and a lot of the conference we've been to with the PFAS and so forth, I have been reading some information on, they've been studying that in North Carolina and where they're having problems. And of course, that's coming on for us to be aware of, because that's gonna be something that we're gonna have to work on and we're gonna have to finance in the future.
BT?
Well, yes,
Recycling
but
stuff.
all those microplastics that they're going to be studying is what is causing the
Oh,
biggest.
yeah, I saw where they did a study where they just actually went down on the beach.
Yeah.
And was looking at all the microscopic portions, because that stuff, it never goes away, it just gets smaller and
Just breaks
smaller.
up.
But Charleston has been identified now as
Yeah.
the worst spot on the
Yeah,
East
right,
Coast.
yeah.
And Wilmington, Brunswick County's bad.
But it's not just human, it's everything, the fish, the
Yeah.
bird, the turtles,
Yeah.
I mean, everything, the
And
whole
we have a
environment.
bill pending that they want
Yeah.
to remove the environmental sanctions on the
Oh, yeah,
microplastics
yeah.
so they can be burned, and considered a recyclable, and to remove all environmental constraints so that they don't have to perform to environmental standards. That's frightening.
Very frightening.
Very.
But we know where that's coming from. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to, go ahead, Danny, you got something?
I think Esther's had a notice from the, state agency that there's gonna be a tour put on for Repower. And some of y'all that may, if you kinda want to go on that, let us know.
Prior to the dates, I would be
I
interested.
would be interested in seeing
Yeah,
that.
I don't know what it is,
When is this and where?
when and where.
Esther.
That's just coming. Sure.
The date is February 26th, that's the Wednesday after our February board meeting. I believe it begins at 10 and ends about noon.
Where's it gonna be?
At the Repower
Berkeley.
facility in
Yeah,
Holmes Corner.
okay.
Yeah, I'd like to go see that. 26. at
February
10.
26th,
At
Wednesday.
10.
And the seating is limited, and we have to register, pay to go. So if you want to go, let me know
Berkeley
tomorrow.
County.
How much we got to
How much does it cost?
$10.
Okay.
Okay.
We probably can handle that.
Won't nobody show up.
Nobody. Man,
26, all right.
I want to go see that.
Okay, let's, conferences. I've got a whole list of conferences here. Everybody wants to go everywhere.
I don't want to go to
Except
Texas or
Carl wants to go
Los
to Paul's
Angeles.
Island, and that's it.
Okay, here's what I had. Now, let me tell you what I got. I got Northlake and Mr. Knight going to the Placid Recycling Center in Nashville. I think that's a good conference. I'm not, upset about that. I think we need at least have somebody there to hear what's going on, because plastics is a big thing. We're always talking about plastic, how we can get rid of it. A lot of it we show will be some of the repeats of all the plastics that's floating and all that kind of stuff, and those kind of good things. So we've got them going there. Most of the people wants to go to the Carolina Recycling Center. By the way, it'll cost us $2,300 and some change for Mr. Norfleet Jones to go out to Nashville. The Carolina Recycling Association Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. I have myself, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Ives, Ms. Creech, Mr. Schwarzkopf, and Mr. Jones. I think the only person we did not put on there was Mr. Johnson. Are you going with us to, cause I didn't figure your cost that in. Huh?
What's the date?
That is in March 23rd through the 26th.
I can probably do that.
All right, so we'll need to add everybody for that one. So right now, we're at $10,000, and so that's gonna be a little more, with Mr. Johnson in there. The conference in Poland's Island, we had, myself, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Ives, Mr. Creech, Mr. Schwarzkopf, and Mr. Jones. And, again, we left you off, Mr. Johnson.
I did not.
You did not want to go to Paul, okay, so. We close to home. We didn't know if you wanted to go. We know Sam most of the time don't go, so we just excluded him. We stuck you in because we didn't hear nothing from him.
I don't mind going.
No, I mean, if you don't want to go, that's fine.
I don't know that
We stuck
with
in.
as many going down there that I'll bring anything back.
Well,
Brought back
you
anyway.
have a
And
key
we're
point
looking
there.
at money, so I'll
But if you want to go,
step down too, and I'll step back.
Paul is, that won't, and that's about $3,000, about $3,500 for that. We only had like $31,000 left in the thing, so right now we're about 21. Now, going back to the Southeast Regional Trade Show, we got Ms. Creech, Mr. Eyes, and Mr. Campbell that wants to go there for a cost of almost $6,000.
A person?
No,
Oh.
total. It's about $1,700 or
my
more.
God.
Where is it?
$2,300 to Florida. I looked at these conferences and I try to get the biggest bang for the buck. I looked at the one in Florida. There are, some of the things that they're talking about are some plastics. And they're talking about, let's see, I checked them. A lot of it, on the first day, they're talking about some plastics, which I'm assuming Norfleet and those will hear some of that same thing when they go to the plastic conference. The one I did see where it said domestic recycling market development strategies and opportunities in the Southeast and beyond. May have some interest. The other one I saw was glass recycling, and I don't know how much glass we still recycle there. A lot of ones are talking about artificial intelligence and robots, and I understand that we're doing optical sorters already into our recycling center. According to Mr. Bessence, that will probably last us for the next 20 years with some upgrade. So I don't know what and how much information we're gonna get from this conference that's gonna make any difference in what we're doing in the recycling center, because we already started there, and that's 2 weeks from being completed. So anything we learn there is not gonna change what we do over there. However, if there's a dying need for someone to go, I would like to do like I did with Phoenix. I would like to allow for one person the opportunity to maybe go, sort of like we're doing with Norfleet. Mr. Eyes had thought that maybe he wanted to go to Atlanta, but for whatever reason, you changed from that.
I thought it would be more, better use for a dollar if we combined transportation, so either,
Right.
I couldn't convince Pam to go to Atlanta, she convinced me that Miramar was.
Yeah, I guess what I'm looking at is what we're gonna get out of it. If we're gonna get a lot out of it, I don't mind everybody going. But if we're not gonna get that much out of it, I don't know how much we're gonna change. In fact, we're not gonna change, because we've already spent the money that we're gonna do in the recycling center. So whatever we learn is gonna be for information only. What I would like to see is, maybe in a year or so, once we've had an opportunity to see what our optical sorters look like, that conferences that may talk about whether or not we made the right choice, would be more, because we're
Or
not.
augment.
Yeah, or something that we may
More
have,
robotic.
and we're not gonna know that until after this thing kicks up and gets to going. So my thing, that's my concern, is that, yeah, we got enough money to send it, but I don't wanna just spend money to be spending money just because we have the money, unless we're gonna really get something out of it that's gonna be, earth-shattering to us. Then my recommendation would be, if somebody must go, then one person goes. And then I'll let you and Bo and Mike fight that out.
You can have it.
I was,
I like
It'll
that.
work.
girl. A camel ain't gonna be that easy.
well, and the other thing would, because Cameron and I are running short. So if anybody's going, I would suggest that it either be Pam or Bo, if you want to go. And so that's my suggestions. I mean, that's how I feel about it. And,
Yeah.
I just think that I want to be good steward of the money, and we may be able to use it to do something else. I don't know, if to go somewhere and find something. And the 28th, I think the composting seminar, I think we sent somebody from staff. And Sam, did you not go to that?
It's, actually this Thursday, Friday,
It's okay.
Saturday.
So
I'm
thank you.
planning on going Friday.
Okay.
They, Friday's schedule is, that's what I'm looking at here, is blade equipment with vendors, windrow turners, mixing and application equipment, grinders and shredders, screeners, stackers, conveyors, and they're doing all that live demonstration, so that's all going down Friday.
But we have a staff member that's going.
That's good.
And what I asked for those technical conferences, and this seems like it's gonna be an expo, so they're probably gonna be doing a lot of trade shows and showing materials and optical, sorters and stuff like I saw when I was in, I guess Cherokee, they said a lot of those kinds of things, and we weren't at that point yet. But I assume we're at that point now since we're installing them. And I'd like to see how they work before, I don't think we're gonna make any changes, so I don't know what we would hear in Florida that's gonna make a major difference in what we do at the recycling center at this time, because we're gonna be cranking up in 2 weeks with what we got.
Yeah.
Whether we hear something different or not, ain't gonna make much difference at this point in time. But when there are technical things that occur, maybe it's because I went to so many conferences during my lifetime and got very little out of them, that I tend to streamline what we're gonna get instead of just spending the money. But when the technical series, I prefer someone from staff go because they understand what they're actually doing in those areas. For example, we could have sent some people to compost. I really didn't want to go sit through a bunch of compost and stuff. But they do that on the landfill. And so we sent somebody who understands what they're looking for and that kind of stuff. So, but I'm not gonna prolong the stuff, but that's, all these other ones we have approved. The one for Southeast in Merrimack Beach, Florida. If one of you would like to go, then you'll have my blessings. And I say that because if I really, I just think that I didn't see a whole lot in there that's gonna really change anything that we're gonna do as far as recycling is concerned. And what I was hoping to see in there was things, and when we talk about looking for new markets, well, I leave that to Mike. I leave that to Mike and Danny, and if we hear something, to pass it on. But I'm hoping that he's looking for new markets and new places to get rid of this stuff every day. That's part of his job. I don't need to send him to a conference to do that, and if he's not doing that, then we may need to put him back up to the podium. But I think he's doing a great job at that in moving this stuff around. And so that's my take on it, and I'll leave it at that. Carl?
I think it's important for us to remember that as board members, it's our responsibility to set policy, things like that, and for the staff to carry it out. And the staff makes those decisions, those recommendations, and comes back to us. And therefore, I think the staff probably gets more out of some of these conference conventions than probably a lot of board members do.
Well, I'm not against board members
Oh, I'm not against it
going
either.
to conferences. I think it's important. I
it
think
helps
we meet
understand,
and talk
yeah.
to a lot of people. We're probably one of the most active boards that I know of, and I don't want to lose that continuity.
I agree.
So that's why I'm saying that we, at the Carolina Recycling Association, we're probably gonna meet a lot of people that we used to deal with and see and that kind of stuff. And so I prefer most of us be there, because most of us can cover more of an area there. And so that's why I figured, it's a good thing to have everybody there. But I just don't feel that we're gonna get much out of one Florida. That's just my personal feelings.
After running, I agree with you. So.
That's all I got.
Last week, during a moment of weakness, I put my Solid Waste Authority iPad to good use, and I searched the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles gallery and found out that the great state of South Carolina and the Department of Motor Vehicles, they've got over 400 vanity license plates, and one of them is reduce, reuse, and recycle.
And you ordered it.
I did not order it. I did not know that.
Hey, you know what I thought you were going to finish that statement with? I ordered one for each one
Of
of
the
you.
board member.
No, I may not be through. The thing that's important, I may not be through.
The thing, Mike, that's important to remember is that the license plate costs $30 every 2 years, And the money, a portion of that fee collected for the plate supports the South Carolina recycling industry, provides education and increased awareness of recycling in the state. And I am not, didn't make any intention to buy one for myself,
Or
but
anybody else.
I thought it might be a nice thing to make the people aware that of the 400 plus license plates, that's one of your choices out of one of 400. If you're really bored and want to look at the gallery, look at 400. There are high schools in South Carolina that have got their own license plate.
Yeah, they get a portion back.
Yeah, they get, yeah, but I can imagine a high school having their own license.
When I
The
went to
shag
get
would
the
not give a
tags for my
scholarship.
daughter's
Yeah.
car in
But
Florida,
I get
we
back-
wanted to see some license plate tags. They got tags, they got a whole wall, it's gotta be big as this wall. They got all different kind of colors, they got trees, so she walked up and she says, well, can I get one for Clemson? And we thought we was gonna get run out of the state. You know, they don't do that way.
For those of you who haven't seen the recycling license plate, that's what it looks like.
Okay, gosh.
And before you bolt it on, see, this number,
Who's gonna know what that is if we're driving down the highway?
You gotta look real close at the
You look at the
tippy
corner,
top.
look at the corner, look at the top.
And
The only person that's gonna
around
be looking
the
at that is
cover.
the state trooper.
Yeah.
It's got a little recycling symbol.
And he said, I'm gonna recycle you.
And we do have that
Have they
information.
ever sold?
I know of, I have seen one, yes, sir.
And it was 0001? Hell, I'll buy that. I ain't never been first in nothing.
does that reduce the fees that we're paying you to these?
No.
Oh, this is what it looks like, so that,
Yeah, that's what the
That's
actual
what-
license plate looks like.
Zero waste.
And
that'd be good.
the money that goes to South Carolina recycling industry goes to the Commerce Department to help with that.
I'm gonna say this about, and I think this is a great idea, but I'm gonna say this, like I said, about people coming to visit the landfill. Ain't too many people gonna ride around with, this on their license plate.
I agree, but I just think it's
It would be good though, if they would.
it would be nice if they would,
Yeah.
but.
You know, maybe we could get
It's a
one of those.
conversation piece.
Who is it, the Chirping Birch, isn't that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and over in your area, since you got that 87%,
I did want to make a report if you don't mind.
that report, if you don't mind telling us about your report.
Yeah,
we'd love
we'll
to
get
hear that.
those
And you gonna be able to
87,
get your
we'll get that
license.
87%, I've already got mine.
Tim,
I know Kendra wants one.
You know what?
We
I
should
think
buy
for
one.
some
I
staff,
bet we should get one for
I
you.
I
we
think for
should.
some staff cars, that might be a nice,
I do too.
except that we've already get the state plates for the,
But you can't, yeah, they'd have to put it on their own personal vehicle.
yeah.
great Christmas gift.
Okay, all
Well, that, you know what, Mr.
right.
Jones?
Remember that.
You know what, instead of having Esther spend, 3 weeks going out shopping, maybe she just ought to get everybody license plates.
Agree here.
Back on the serious note, I did have one serious note that I wanted to ask somebody about, and we talked about this. I've noticed, Danny, lately, in the last month or so, that the odor from the landfill is a little stronger than normal. Even, I know we talk about during the rainy times that that it gets bad, but I've noticed in some of the drier times that the odor is getting a little heavier and it's moving, I guess, a little farther out. I used to could just smell it around about Salem and probably down here where you turn off of East Cox Ferry. But it seems like it's moving up towards the Blueberry Farm and up there. Oh, it's usually, I guess, in the mornings, more in the morning times. And, so I didn't know if there was, anything that we, have stopped doing, or it's just something that maybe,
We still do it in the morning is when you go in and you break the working phase back open.
okay,
And,
okay,
and then the predominant southwest wind here,
okay,
so it blows right to Salem, back to the street.
okay. I never thought about the fact that when you uncap it, then you're gonna, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But we misting along the fence line
Mm-hmm.
and at the tanks. And they come on what time, Mike, in the morning? 5 a.m. 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay,
But we're continuing and I watch the windsock on which way the wind's blowing, so, we've got it up and the weather station's up so we can, if we get a complaint, we know if the wind was blowing the opposite direction, it wasn't us.
I remember at one conference we were at, and they were talking about some kind of cover, something that we could use that was more, mass to order mode. Did we ever look into that?
We use it daily, for daily cover. We can't use it on Saturday, we got to cover with soil.
Okay.
Saturday till Monday morning, but we spray the daily cover, and actually, we're now mixing latex paint with it.
Okay.
Do you think that what you're spraying covers the odor as well as dirt?
Well, you can't, when you break the working face open, there ain't no way to cover it.
Okay,
It's gonna be open
Yeah.
till you spray it in the afternoon.
okay,
But it's not what we're using on the fence line is not a mask, it diffuses the odor. So, and it works good. Rich uses it when he takes the bulldozer into the shop to work on it. It's been on the landfill. He'll actually spray it with this stuff and it diffuses the odor.
oh, okay.
Okay. All right, that's all I'd ask.
The other thing, I remember, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, it must have been the year before when I went somewhere. And we had gotten information on covering the odor. And I think I brought it back here to have them come give a sample. You and Mike looked at it. And I think that might be a little better than what we were doing, but it's more expensive. So I don't know if it's worth to pay more for it to get more of it covered up.
That was in the cover, and that was, like a concrete shell stuff. Posi shell, yeah.
Okay.
And it is expensive, and what we're using, I think it works well.
And you haven't had a whole bunch of complaints, I mean, one or two, maybe.
And it depends on which way the wind's blowing. And we've had some complaints, DHEC come out, go to the site where they got the complaint from, wind was blowing away from us, and I think it turned out to be a pump station. Or their neighbor.
Okay,
Keep Horry County Beautiful, in partnership with the Solid Waste Authority, Coastal Waccamaw Stormwater Education Consortium, Surf Warrior Foundation, and Sustained Coastal, is conducting a survey on plastics, and I had reported this last month. We have got the results this morning, and so far we have 1,000 respondents, and 87% of the respondents do recycle and do wish that we do ban plastics. The fact that 87% of them recycle lets us know that it isn't representative of the whole county, so we're going to try to widen the net. So we're going to keep it open for another 2 months to get more responses from the county. But it is positive to know that we got 1,000 people who would be interested in responding to the survey. It takes 6 minutes to fill out. And it is interesting to see where they all live. And at the top is Aner, at the bottom is Myrtle Beach and Caroline Forest. So you can tell where the interest has been and
We
where
need
we've
more
been able
surveys
to.
from Aner.
So we do need to survey the western part of the county.
And probably mine
Where was
too.
yours? North Myrtle Beach, near the bottom.
Yeah, quite a few.
We got North Myrtle Beach has their back band, so they're already in business.
yeah.
Conway's near the bottom as well.
And we're not aware of yet that Conway has tried to establish a position on banning it within the city. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that we'll be doing our litter index on February 25th. That's the same date as our next board meeting.
Us again.
And I would ask if we could participate again. That really is representative of the Solid Waste Authority's commitment to litter and reduction of litter. And so that will be the same day. You could actually conduct it a different day if that suits you, but just make sure that we coordinate your work with everyone else on that day.
Pam and I have done it for what, 4 years?
Yeah, about 4
Yes,
years
yes,
we
you
go out
have.
and do it for them.
Yes, you have.
And
Great.
mainly, we were Highway 90,
Right.
Red Bluff Road,
Old 71.
East Cox Ferry, Lee's Landing, if we could keep us in that general
Area, that'd be better.
Yeah.
The third thing I wanted to bring up is the Audubon Society was here 2 Saturdays ago. Along with the professor from Coastal Carolina University, we observed 10,000 gulls. One was an Icelandic gull, which has never been seen in this hemisphere, which was kind of interesting.
It's in the newspaper this morning, wasn't it?
Yes.
I remember reading it in the newspaper yesterday.
And 30,
Got a good article here, you might want to.
yes, and 30 eagles. And Danny reported that he's been seeing 30 eagles consistently at each morning for the last month. So that's terrific.
That's great.
We had a blue-eyed, West Coast blue-eyed gull about
Yes.
2 years ago here. One of my staff members said, "Wonder how it got here." I said, "It rode the bus."
It was the first one observed in the state of South Carolina. They don't have any idea how it got here.
It didn't ride the
Yeah.
bus.
So when you go out here and look, out here on the landfill?
On the hill.
Yeah.
And what was the county it saw this time, never been seen here before?
Icelandic.
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 But
That was the one
the
that was in the
professor
newspaper.
also corroborated
The blue eye.
the
How did they see that he had blue eyes? What
Oh,
kind of
I-
binoculars did they have? That's what I'm.
He has phenomenal eyesight. The rest of us were all using binoculars.
Here's one guy had a camera that long.
Oh, gosh.
When I got here, Mr. Ives called me, and so I came on out, and he was on the hill, and I stopped and talked with him. And he was really looking for that thing. He was disappointed, and everybody else had already gone, so. But he could see them. Yeah.
Boy, 10,000 gulls is a lot of gulls. Now, what do? Do they count the legs and then divide by 2?
He told us how he estimates the population. He looks at
That was probably.
correlated area, and he counts them within one strip,
Strip, okay.
and then
Multiplies
multiplies it by the width that he sees.
Okay.
And he's pretty good at being able to count. What he
That was
sees.
probably an
Computer
endangered
too.
species
Yeah.
gull that
So he's
killed
good at
two.
estimating.
Okay.
Blue-eyed gull.
I like the legs one too, that's good.
I thought it was, that's a lot easier than counting the legs and then dividing by 2.
Get Carl going. All right. Please don't say anything.
How many chickens put bread in wings? I've never had one done in the correct answer.
All right, got anything else for, roundtable?
Pursuant to provisions as provided in Robert's Rules of Order, I hereby move that the meeting come to order in the form of agenda, adjournment.
It's been second, all those in
Second.
favor?
Got it. It doesn't have to be seconded.
Meeting adjourned.
Needs to be heard.
Yeah, all right, very good, thank you.
One chicken like